Saw X is directed by Kevin Greutert. I'm sorry if I can't get his name right. It stars Tobin Bell, Shawnee Smith, and among others. And this story, it deals with taking place between the events of the first Saw and the second Saw, where you have John Kramer essentially getting an opportunity to possibly cure his disease by going to Mexico and having an operation done by these doctors, and then coming to find out that it's all full of bullshit, and he ends up putting the doctors in his own tests of jigsaw games that he's known for. And along the way, it also starts to unravel some stuff that you would kind of get some connections to in some of the other films, and also dealing with the ways that it deals with the whole morality of Jigsaw as a person, as we get to basically spend the entire film in his perspective. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this is now the 10th film in the Saw franchise, and I've always loved the franchise ever since I first saw it back in 2004 when the first one came out. And me and Eddie did a whole retrospective of the series back in 2016 that you're welcome to check out as well. And for the most part, I really enjoyed almost all the films. I felt like for the first 6 movies at least, they were keeping it capturing with being able to blend in a lot of great gore and stuff, while also making it seem like it's an ongoing, like episodic police procedural type of story and stuff. And in different ways where each entry would be coming out every Halloween and stuff. And just the idea of someone basically being all these kinds of jigsaw games and stuff like that and having to survive, it really showcased a new iconic killer in Jigsaw. And being able to see more stuff fleshed out as it went along with each entry, it always made me intrigued of if they were ever going to do like a full-on prequel. Because I remember after the third film came out, I kind of always wondered like what they were going to do with the franchise, especially, well, if you've seen 3, you know it's been a while. It's been a while since the movies come out, but you remember he died in the third movie, so it's like, what are you going to really do after that? And so I appreciated how each movie kept basically trying to continue the story in different ways and stuff. But by the time it got to the final chapter in 2010, it really felt like the series was taking a hiatus after that, because with that one, with it being very rushed and very getting, with taking the original script they had for 7 and 8 to shoot them back to back, and putting half of the script of the 8th movie to put into the 7th one, you could definitely tell that movie was so rushed, and it still to this day holds as the worst film of the franchise. And having it rewatched recently, it still pisses me off to no end, especially with a lot of the decisions they made. But after that, they took a hiatus, and then they came back with Jigsaw, which I thought was better shot, but it still suffered from a lot of stuff that really pissed me off even more, and a lot of things that really, contradicted a lot of the stuff from the other films. And then they also brought out Spiral a couple years ago, which was actually a surprise. It had its issues here and there, but I still thought it was a step up, and definitely, interested in where that series goes. And when I heard they were going to be doing more Saw movies where they wanted to basically have it where it was going to be Jigsaw's perspective, I was interested, but I was also skeptical, because it always felt like to me that, if you really count all the flashbacks and stuff that you saw in the other films, I really kind of wonder how they were going to make a film that took place between the first 2 films. Seeing how a lot of the later entries basically covered part of that with all the flashbacks. And so my curiosity was still open, but I still really wasn't getting much the vibe from the trailers, even though I was still curious on how they were going to play out. But much to my surprise, and after upon seeing the film, I can honestly say that I really love this movie a lot, and it will definitely go down as one of my all-time favorite Saw films. It might actually be my second, possibly, after the first film. And so, with that being said, I thought, to get my pros out of the way, the performances in this are all fantastic. Tobin Bell shines as normal, as he always does. And in this one, I appreciate they were going into a lot more emotional stuff that we get to see with him, and also with Shawnee Smith come back as Amanda. And you can definitely see the morality and different stuff that he goes into his character that he's known for, because knowing how Jigsaw's not a killer, this is the first time we actually get to see him where he's interacting with stuff that you typically don't see in other films, where, he's interacting with children, you see him interacting with, characters that may seem out of the ordinary, but you still get to see a little bit of a human side to him, where, he basically, in a way, he's like the equivalent of Walter White from Breaking Bad in that kind of level, where he does basically come across like in his early days, where he's essentially an anti-hero. But he's not necessarily a good guy or a bad guy in this case. And you still get to see more of the sinister side to him like he's known for. But I appreciate that they gave him layers in this that really makes him stand out to where he's not quite on that level like he was in the second film. So I appreciate that they kind of really bridge that gap, so to speak. And then it was also great to see Shawnee Smith in this again. And I do have a pro-con with how they, made her look in the film that I'll get to later. But she's always great, and she really, does what she does best with being the apprentice for John and having to capture the test subjects and everything. And, her chemistry with Tobin Bell is still fantastic as it was in the third film, and a lot of in the other films as well. And she definitely does have some stuff to her character in this that I also found interesting, but I can't go into it because it were real spoilers. But let's just say it also has some ambiguous. It has some more. It has some layers to her character where she kind of has a noble side, so to speak. But I won't go into detail with that. And so she was great. And then the rest of the cast were fine. I think the ones that really stood out the most is the girl that plays Gabriella. I thought she was really good. And then also the other actress who plays the doctor. I thought she was the main head of the doctors and stuff. I thought she was really good. And you can definitely tell that she's definitely the one that's really trying to that you can really see that's behind everything. That really feels like she deserves everything the most. But I'll leave it at there. And so the other biggest praise I have to give the most is the way that it goes into a different type of feel where it doesn't start out like your typical Saw film. It actually, has it to where it's a personal story for John having to go into basically, seeing the doctors that messed up on his operation and everything like that. But the cool thing is that the way it builds up where you're introducing all these characters getting there, I think was an interesting spin where it's really taking its time compared to the other films where you just jump in or you get like a quick flashback on stuff that's set up for it. And so I appreciate that it really took its time on the pacing on this and really getting it to where we haven't seen this kind of angle before. On top of that, the traps are also really great in this as well. While they might not be on par with some of the other films in certain areas, I still really enjoyed the way that they were able to blend in some really great stuff where you see like in the trailer where the guy's having to basically get something out of his skull and, put it on to open a key or something like that. That was not only one of the most brutalest parts in the film, but it also really, I appreciate how in the traps this time, they get to spend more time actually seeing their survivors, seeing the actual test subject, working to work their way out to where it's almost like it's playing out in real time. And I thought that was really great direction on that part. And then on top of that, it's great to hear the score from Charlie Clouser in this again. There's some neat little references that really play into the story with the other films, and especially there's a mid-credits scene that I thought was really great as well. And on top of that, one of the other cool things is I really appreciate how when it gets to its third act, it gets into a really surprising that it saw something that I didn't really expect to happen. And I know it can kind of seem like, you kind of know where it's going because after all, it is set between the first two films, but the way it plays it out I thought was really not only intense and engaging, but also has something that I thought was really cool that I hadn't seen before in a Saw film. So there was that. Overall, though, there's really little to no flaws I can have with this film because it really seems like it knows what it's doing on trying to please not only the hardcore fans of the series, but also with it trying to bring in new fans that I think really does a lot better compared to what Jigsaw did. And in that they really did their homework on the continuity and stuff. And the only kind of minor con I would say is that, okay, Shawnee Smith does look like she didn't really age too well to where she really, has this kind of obvious fake looking wig that they put on her to make her look younger and stuff. But it has been almost 20 years, and since the series started, and I can see how they kind of struggled on making her look a lot younger. And so that is one of a kind of a minor issue I have, but she still pulled it off, and I thought she was excellent. And then you could argue that there's a twist that they do at the third act that I did kind of see in some ways kind of coming, but at the same time, I still didn't bother me too much because I like the way it resolves that to where, I'm not going to go spoilers, but it has a good payoff with it. And so that didn't bother me too much. And so with that being said, I can't get enough of this film, and it's definitely been one of my favorite films of the year. And with that, I'm going to give Saw X a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Saw X, let me know, and also the other films in the franchise, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.